Hey there, everyone. Dr. Kurt Ahern here. Just want to take a couple minutes and talk about a topic that we're very passionate about here in the office, and that's the nervous system. And more specifically, how the nervous system ties into all these things that kids are struggling with these days, whether it be ADD, ADHD, anxiety, sensory processing disorder, all these different labels and diagnoses. Parents are looking for some answers, and we're just going to take a couple minutes this morning and talk about one particular topic that hopefully can shed a little bit of light on the why the child is experiencing some of these neurodevelopmental issues that we're seeing so prevalent in our society today. Not only in my community of Huron Valley, but the communities across the country. So specifically, I want to take a couple minutes and talk about the nervous system and the fact that the nervous system, whether you're aware of it or not, controls everything in the entire body. It's the lifeline. It connects to the brain and it runs the show. So when we talk about the nervous system, we talk about the autonomic nervous system. Specifically, the two parts of the autonomic nervous system, which control everything in the child's body. Specifically, the sympathetic nervous system, which is responsible for stress. All right, this is the part of the nervous system that most of you might recognize as fight or flight. It's the stress mode. And it's good. It's good for these kids to have it, but when it's on, it should really only be on in short bursts. So when it's on for longer than that, it creates a lot of issues and struggles. The other side of the nervous system is called the parasympathetic nervous system, and this side of the nervous system is responsible for things like growth, healing, and development. Now, as parents, you and I, we would both agree, I think, that the child, the developing child, whether they're an infant, 2-year-old, 4-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, the majority of their time as they're going through this developmental process in life needs to be spent in more of a calming, relaxation state, the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, growth, healing, and development. That's where we want to see these kids spending the majority of the time. However, they're not. And the common denominator that we see in this office with all these kids that are struggling with various conditions and labels is that they're spending the majority of their time not in the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, where they should be spending the majority of their time, but in the sympathetic side of the nervous system, which is their stress mode. All right, they're sympathetic dominant. All right, they're wired for this state of stress, and quite honestly, parents, they've been wired like that for a very, very significant period of time. And one of the things that we look at when we look at a case history of a child who's struggling with any of these particular issues, we look at the birth process, we look at the trauma induced to the spine and the nervous system during the birth process and how it automatically then starts to wire these kids into a state of sympathetic dominance. We look at traumas to the spine very early on in life, slips, falls, things of that nature. We look at emotional stress to the nervous system over time that starts to really ingrain patterns into their sympathetic nervous system, locking them in. And we look at toxins as well, things like diet and foods and medications and antibiotics. And there's a time and a place for some of those other things, but what they do is they always put the kid into a further state of sympathetic dominance. And again, remember, that's not where we want these kids to be as they're going through that developmental process early on in their life. So one of the things that we really start to look at is how can we take the child, the process of taking them out of the sympathetic dominant state, fight or flight, stress, which they've been wired for many, many years, and how can we take them more into the calming, growth, healing, and development side, the parasympathetic side of the nervous system, and how can we get them over there and start to rewire that neurological component and get them to stay there. All right, and one of the things that we look at is what's called the vagus nerve, VAGUS. All right, and parents out there, if you haven't looked at this yet, please take the time to Google it or do some research on the vagus nerve, because it's one of the most calming parasympathetic nerves in the body. It's a cranial nerve. It exits right up top, right? It comes down, it crosses, and it goes right into the gut. So here's the other deal. Everyone out there today is talking about heal the gut, heal the gut, heal the gut. Is the gut the primary source or the cause of all disease? And it's right in part. It's part of the issue, it's part of the equation, but it's not the full piece. All right? Before there was ever a gut issue or an inflammatory issue with these kids who are struggling, there was a neuro issue. All right, understand that. The nervous system has been compromised for a very, very significant time. all right, and is causing an inability for the brain to communicate to the nervous system, to the organs, to the systems, to all areas of the body, because they're always having that disconnection, all right? And it's been locked in there, and they've been locked in sympathetic dominant state for a very, very significant period of time. Has created a lot of problems for them. And that's the struggle. So again, in this office, we're not looking to cure, we're not looking to treat, we're not saying that you only need to do this. Quite honestly, kids need a lot of different stuff these days, right? They need the diet, they need, the therapies at times. They need a lot of different things. What we're hoping to do and provide to you as parents out there in the community are some answers, in the sense that we're giving this missing component and we're bringing it into the equation. And quite honestly, for many parents that we've talked to, it's something that they've never really even considered or looked into. But once we start to understand it, and we understand how the neurology works, and how when we can unlock the nervous system and start to retrain the nervous system, taking them from a sympathetic state and bringing them over into a parasympathetic growth, healing, and development state, where we're tapping the brakes for these kids, we're slowing them down over and over and over and over, and we're just connecting the dots for them. We're bringing that connection back to the brain, to the nervous system, to the organs, to the systems, regardless of diagnosis, regardless of condition, regardless of label. Doesn't matter if it's ADD, ADHD, sensory, autism, spectrum, whatever the diagnosis is, parents. I really don't care about it that much, in the sense that the common denominator is that they all have a nervous system that is just stressed to the brink. And so the more that we can understand the neurology, again, and have an understanding of how we can actually start to rewire the nervous system for these kids, that's where we want to go. So if this video has been somewhat informative for you or helpful, or if you know a parent out there who has a child who might be struggling with a condition or disease, a label, regardless of what that is, whether it's allergies or asthmas, seizures, neurodevelopmental disorders, whatever that may be for them, please, if you feel inclined, share it with them. Just, share the video, like the video, comment on the video. If you found it insightful, if you found this video informative, please look into our next upcoming Perfect Storm Talk. It's going to be next Tuesday, November 15th, here at the office at 6:30. All right, we're going to have the conversation. All right, no pressure. We're just going to sit down. We're going to start to dive into the neurology a little bit more, hopefully give you some answers. If that's something that you're interested in, please check out our website, perfectstormhuronvalley.com. Get registered for it. Register yourself, register your friends. Would love to have you here. We're going to have that conversation and just hopefully give you some answers and talk about what's going on today with these kids. Get them some help, get them rewired, so that they can express full potential in their health from this day for the rest of their day as well. So have a great day, guys. Have an awesome weekend, and we'll hope to see you soon. Take care.